pretty much the halfway point of the championship now. This is round 9 of the 2013 FF1M season, coming to you from the absolutely gorgeous surroundings of the Spielberg circuit in Austria. Just me today, as Courtney and Whiteley were conveniently unavailable. Last time out saw Sergio Perez take his first ever win in FF1M for the Gajera, which unbelievably, despite their qualifying performances, was their second win of the season, in what was a bit of a stalemate race, where drivers seemed to struggle to get close to one each other and overtake. This was later blamed on gearing, rather than a lack of traction coming out of the hairpin. Slightly different circumstances in the World Championship though, as Romain Grosjean leads by just 3 points from Sebastian Vettel in the Shake and Bake and Kimi Räikkönen in the Gajera, who himself is a further 6 points back. Perez's win moves him up to 4th in the championship and makes for a slightly more interesting situation in the constructors now, with Gajera just 7 points behind Tornado. Very simple circuit this, lap times under 70 seconds are generally seen as quite good, anything more than that and you're a bit too slow. But just the 9 or so corners officially, now it's 10, with the kink before turn 3, the very tight Remus hairpin. Good conditions expected throughout the action, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, metaphorically speaking of course. And taking a look at the grid, it's not who's going to be on pole, but how far will Kimi Räikkönen be on pole by? The answer is 0.3 of a second. Surely the standout performance is Robert Kubica, qualifying on the front row for Andrew F1. Let's hope he can maintain that pace during the race. A close run thing on row 2 with Hulkenberg just 0.003 of a second ahead of Perez. Another good showing from Hulkenberg in the Mitchell, the vastly improved Mitchell. So Works Renault engines working quite well on this interesting little circuit. All Tornado row 3 with Grosjean ahead of Verne. Alonso 7th, race winner in fact, Alonso having won the Monaco Grand Prix in what was a very good performance. Another difficult performance for FJR, down in 10th and even further back for Gutierrez. Hamilton 10th, Gutierrez 15th. And other performances to note, not that much in terms of variation, just the usual suspects towards the back of the grid. And at the very back of the grid, well, you can see Pastor Maldonado in 18th place, who is having an even worse season than we imagined. All of Shake and Bake's points scored by Vettel for the moment. But lap times are very close, just 2 seconds covering the entire field. So on the starting grid, 70 laps of the Austrian Grand Prix, 5 lights are on, the inevitable pause, and the 5 lights go out, and that was a good start for Robert Kubica in second on the grid. He's trying to get up alongside Kimi Räikkönen going into the first corner, but Räikkönen has the inside line, so he should hold on to that. No, he doesn't! Kubica takes the lead of the race round the outside, and what on earth happened to Räikkönen? He's down to 3rd. That's shaken up the order a bit. Hulkenberg up to 2nd. And now Räikkönen under a bit of pressure from one of the Tornadoes, but he himself is going to try and bite back on Hulkenberg going into the Remus curve. Not quite. It's Grosjean in 4th position, and who has got up alongside Räikkönen coming out of the corner, down the back straight into the Gosser curve, and now the other Gajera is having a look. It's action on the first lap. Räikkönen having a go back up the inside, but it is Grosjean who assumes 3rd position. And that's good news for the championship leader, but it's Kubica who leads from Hulkenberg. Didn't think I'd be saying that after the first few corners. There's Jean-Eric Verne in 6th position, Alonso in 7th, and Nico Rosberg in 8th. So the top 8 remaining in the top 8, in a slightly different order than I was expecting. So coming out of the final corner, there is Kubica, and he leads by... we'll find out in a moment, but he is the fastest one on track at the moment. Hulkenberg is not that far behind. 8/10 off, or 9/10, give or take, and Grosjean a second back. And there's Hamilton, who lost a position at the start to somebody. I'll try and figure out who that is. Probably one of the ex-elites. Jensen Button's had a great start, who's gone from 12th, and he's now, I believe, in 10th position. Vettel versus Hamilton into the Remus curve, but Hamilton hangs on to that one, and now Vettel coming under a bit of pressure from one of the Willows. It is Button in 9th position, so he's gained 3 positions. The other Willows will be Daniel Ricciardo, because Rosberg is up in 8th position. So they're all line astern going through the second lap at the moment, as we have a look at Alonso, who is closing up to Perez for 6th position. Let's see what he can do with this one. Rounding the Joch and Rindt curve, very fast right, very tricky to get right, and an even trickier corner at the very end of the lap. It's Grosjean who is the fastest man on track at the moment, lapping a 1 minute 6.7. That's nearly as quick as qualifying. There's some pace going on at the moment. It's very hot, pretty quickly. Button has taken 8th off of Rosberg. We might see a replay of that one, but for now, we're on board with Grosjean as he rounds turn 3, the Remus curve. I prefer corner names compared to numbers. I believe this next one is called the Gosser curve, or Gerser curve, if you are quite fluent in German. Such as our old mate Felix Sonntag. I remember Felix racing in FF1M for SF1, or owning a team SF1. Be nice to see him back one day. There's a replay of Button taking Rosberg going into turn 1, Castrol curve as I remember it. And we are looking at Grosjean, who is closing up to Hülkenberg for 2nd position. The Ferrari engine is very powerful, but contact is not what Romain Grosjean would have wanted, just a friendly nudge. Is he going to nudge Hülkenberg again? He's going to try there. Raikkonen having a look as well. So that bit of contact has cost Grosjean momentum, and now Raikkonen up the inside going into Remus. And he's got 3rd position back off of him. So a mistake from Grosjean has cost him a position. Will it cost him another one? Don't think it will. Now Verne's got the slipstream going into the Gerser curve, and there's going to be contact between the two. And Verne just about hanging on to that, but that will have Tobias pooing his pants, probably. And more poo coming out nearly as we go into the Rindt curve. Verne wants 4th position off of championship leader Grosjean. Meanwhile, Perez is in 6th position, only 4 tenths ahead of Alonso. So both Excelites are now making their moves. Alonso's 7th, Button 8th. Alonso's right up the back of Perez as they go through the long straight, going uphill to the Remus curve. He's on the outside, so I don't think he'll get the position, and indeed Perez chops in front of the Spaniard, former FF1M champion, let's not forget. And he's got to be careful because Jenson Button is lurking, and a mistake from Grosjean again, locking up into the Gerser curve, rumbling over the curbs, but he's just about holding on to 4th position, but he's under pressure as they go around the 2 long left-handers. I think it's Niki Lauda and then Berger, Gerhard Berger, the winner of the first ever FF1M race. That would be back when it was the Masters era, 1988, as it was dubbed. He won for A Racing at Phoenix. 2nd position in that particular race was Mika Hakkinen, driving for the FJR team, formerly known as FJ's Fast Squad. This year there'll be FJ's Unreliable Squad. Having a wretched season, as I talk about my own team, just as Verne has got past Grosjean, so let's get back to some actual action instead of narcissistic commentating. And look at that, Perez! Alonso's just taken 5th! 2 positions on the back straight as Grosjean was, well, it was Perez that was balked a bit, and then Alonso just snuck past the pair of them. Brilliant move from the Excelite, and I think there's a yellow flag. Somebody is off and out at the final corner. I can just about see that at the top of the screen. It's Bruno Senna who has suffered an oil leak in the Pedersen BMW. The only team running the BMW engines, of course, and it's showing as they've really struggled this season. Aside from their double points finish in Australia, they just haven't been on the pace at all, unfortunately. Let's hope he gets back to the front soon. And we are having a look at Grosjean versus Alonso for 5th position. Grosjean wants that position back off the Spaniard, the very plucky Spaniard. And now we're having a look at Kimi Raikkonen, who is challenging Nico Hülkenberg for 2nd, who defends a bit too late because Kimi Raikkonen is now up to 2nd. Now, what can he do about the sensational Robert Kubica, who holds a 2-second lead? Well, half a second quicker on that lap despite having to overtake Hülkenberg. Raikkonen is on the move now. Also trying to be on the move is Grosjean, but he's just stuck behind the Exolite of Alonso. Meanwhile, Perez may come under pressure from Button soon, so it looks like both Exolites are still on the march. And slight lock-up there from Alonso. They're struggling a bit under braking going into the Gersa curve. There's the giant bronze bull. I think it was meant to be red, but somebody couldn't read the script properly. Just a sculpture on the outside of the circuit. Looks quite nice. As they round the exit of the Berger curve up to the Jochen Rindt curve. Don't think Grosjean can do anything about that. Now into the very, very difficult final corner. Very undulating apex. Quite spectacular to watch, and half a second taken out of Kubica's lead. Kimi Raikkonen, he's on the march now. As they round the first corner, Castrol curve, down the long back straight. The hills are alive with the sound of FF1M. Now it's Jean-Eric Vergne who's challenging Hulkenberg for third position. So now we're seeing the superior race pace compared to the Renault engined teams. And there was Button having a look at Perez, but not quite making that one stick. And just approaching those two, Sebastian Vettel, who, despite qualifying down in 11th, he's closing up to these two. So once again, Vettel looking quite quick in race trim. Also looking quite quick is Jean-Eric Vergne. Just 3 and a bit tenths behind Hulkenberg as they started this lap. Don't need a numbered gap to tell you what's going on there. And Vergne has taken third, so now it's his job to try and catch up to Raikkonen and Kubica. 3 tenths taken out of Kubica's lead on that particular lap, but now Jean-Eric Vergne, he's now on the march. And Alonso under pressure from Grosjean going into the first corner, but once again Alonso braking late, and Grosjean can't do anything about it. And just in the background now, Button's coming under pressure from Vettel, so it's all action at the Austrian Grand Prix so far. And there you can see Perez, Button, Vettel, and approaching those 3, it's Nico Rosberg in the Willows. And now up the inside into Remus, not quite still. Alonso's very good on the brakes. Now Alonso's going to try and catch up to Hulkenberg. That's 1.5 seconds to try and make up. But if these two start squabbling, then that could play into the Mitchells' hands. Now here's the battle for the lead. Kimi Raikkonen versus Kubica. Kubica defending. Raikkonen still goes on the inside, and up the inside into Remus. Raikkonen takes the lead of the race, and Kubica frightens himself onto the curbs in response. So we have a new race leader on lap 13, Fernando Alonso. And is he due into the pits this lap? Is this a problem? Because Jenson Button had already got past. Indeed it is. Electrical problem as displayed on his steering wheel. So what looked like a very tenacious race for Alonso has just been compromised a little bit by a little electronic gremlin into his pit box. As they set to work, how much fuel is going to go on board? An extra 18 laps. So if he was due into the pits with about 4 laps to go, this could take him to lap 44. So still on course for a 2-stop strategy. And on new tyres he might be able to do something about it. Rejoins in 19th, 20th position behind the horizon. That looks like Sutil. Raikkonen's not pulled away as much as I expected, as Alonso tries to get his way up the inside. That is close to the back of Sutil. That's Gutierrez in front of both of these, and I suppose a question will be not if FJRs will make the finish, but what lap will they retire? My guess is that Hamilton will blow his engine up on lap 30, and Gutierrez will follow suit with a similarly related engine failure 10 laps later. There's some action as I talk more narcissistic comments. Jean-Eric Vergne now in second position, having passed Kubica, going into turn 1. Perez coming into the pits now for his first stop. Lap 15. This is quite early, so this looks like a short first stint, followed by 2 long stints possibly. Let's see how much fuel goes into the car. Vettel also pits. Not a lot of fuel going on board Perez, so this looks like a 3-stop strategy, completely different from what Alonso's going for. What will Vettel do? Also 3 stops. So going to see a bit of variation in fuel strategy. I think Alonso was running a 2-stop, but he's had to bring it early as I nearly dropped the microphone. Alonso has moved past somebody for 17th. That looks like the other horizon of Bird, as Gutierrez comes into the pits. And just having a look, there's 2 shake and bakes in front of Alonso. Don't know if it's Vettel ahead of Maldonado. It's not. Maldonado ahead of Vettel, so I suspect some team orders will be coming to play in a bit. Grosjean challenging what looks like Hulkenberg for 4th position, that will be. Raikkonen continues to lead. 2.9 seconds is the gap between himself and Jean-Eric Vergne. Kubica just 1.2 seconds behind, but I suspect he may drop back a bit. Still looking good for a solid haul of points is the Polish driver, as Hulkenberg wildly defends his position going into the Lauda curve. And this is helping Kubica get up the road a little bit. Meanwhile, Jenson Button runs 6th, Rosberg 7th and Hamilton 8th, side by side going in through the Rindt curve and not quite making it stick. Now Grosjean's got another chance going into the first corner. I think Vergne has just come into the pits. Indeed he has. Meanwhile his teammates now at the inside going into the first corner and still not making it stick. It's quite incredible. Braking late on the outside into the first corner seems to be the way to go. 6.8 seconds is the stop for Vergne. Again looks as if he's on a 3-stop strategy. Valtteri Bottas comes into the pits. Could be on a 3-stopper as well. And here's Daniel Ricciardo. Vergne is rejoined behind the Willows driver and ahead of Perez. So if Perez was struggling early on in the race, then 3 stops doesn't really look good on him. That's Grosjean v Hulkenberg. Grosjean now up to 3rd position, so he's finally made that move stick. And here we're having a look at the 2 shake and bakes and Fernando Alonso going at it with each other. Look at this traffic jam that Alonso's faced with. So his race has been well and truly compromised by his electrical gremlin. Now he's trying to get alongside Maldonado going into the first corner. Can he make his late braking stick? They're still side by side through the first corner, and Alguersuari is coming into play now. Is this going to be a 3-car battle going into Remus curve? Still side by side Alonso Maldonado. Alonso has got it now, and Alguersuari has snuck past Maldonado as well. So bad lap for the shake and bake number 2. In fact, it's Sebastian Vettel, not Maldonado. So that's not good for Vettel's race if he's got a quick car underneath him. Alonso 2-stopping, remember, Vettel 3-stopping. So that's going to work out quite well for Alonso. Now Vettel is going to try and get past his teammate once and for all. But again losing out as Alguersuari gets in front of him. So Vettel's race being well and truly shafted. Now into the pits has come Robert Kubica. This is somewhere between 3 and 2 stops, so it'll be interesting to see what he does with his fuel strategy. But he's having a very good race so far, very good weekend in fact. 2nd on the grid, and just about hanging on to the leaders. Let's see the fuel, 28. Again, neither 2 or 3 stops, so I suspect it is a 2-stop strategy. We'll have to see how that pans out. Hamilton comes into the pits. So again, either 2 or 3 stops. We'll see what that does. As Kubica rejoins in 6th, ahead of Ricciardo. So he's rejoined behind Perez. That's not worked out quite as well as he'd hoped, but if he's 2-stopping, then it could still work out quite well. Now then, Kimi Raikkonen due into the pits this lap. And nearly on the grass, going through the pit entry. So he slows down to what will be 81 kilometres an hour. Into his garage he goes. No question about what tyres he's going to take on. They're all slicks. Definitely 2 stops for Raikkonen. Grosjean comes into the pits now, and out of the pits in 8.2 seconds comes the Flying Finn. Hulkenberg takes the lead of the race, but he's yet to make his first stop. Now Jean-Eric Vergne, he's now taken second position. So Vergne, on his 3-stop strategy, is now in the net lead. But if Raikkonen's 2 stopping, then it still looks okay for him. Ricciardo due into the pits this lap. This is lap 23. Hulkenberg leads, but yet to make his first stop. Vergne second, but has made his stop. First of 3 we're expecting. Raikkonen's is third. Kimi Raikkonen third. Perez fourth, so both Gujeras in the top 4. Kubica still 5th, still strong. And now we've got Button versus Ricciardo for 6th position. And that's a position gained for the Brit. Ricciardo yet to stop, and he's due in this lap. Button has stopped and has jumped Grosjean, interestingly. So we'll have to see what's happened there. Obviously Grosjean stopping a bit later, so new tyres, they're the way forward. Now Hamilton's having a look and nearly grazing the back of the shake and bake. But now Hulkenberg has pitted. So this is now the situation. Vergne leads the race by 3.6 seconds from Kimi Raikkonen. A further 3 seconds back is Perez. And a further 1.6 down. And Kubica's got himself a mechanical issue. Looks like electrical on the steering wheel, so his strong performance has now been compromised. That's a shame, he's been doing so well this weekend. Obviously 6 going on. Purely unscheduled, maybe a little bit of fuel going in. 7.8 seconds, where is this going to drop him down to? Only 2 more laps before the inevitable FJR retirement. Probably. 2nd gear, 3rd gear. Going through the gears, he's dropped down to 13th position. That's bad. That's bad luck. And what's that done to the rest of the field? They'll move Grosjean up to Button up to 4th, but he's now becoming under pressure from Grosjean. He's going to try round the outside going into the Remus curve. And that's not going to work. Hulkenberg is 6th, and he stopped later than most of the front runners. So let's see what he can do on newer tyres. And after his electrical drama, Alonso's up to 7th. His tyres will be getting a bit old though, and on a 2-stop strategy. That's not the most ideal strategy in terms of tyre life, but it might work out well in terms of track position. He's running 2.7 seconds ahead of Nico Rosberg, who fell away a little bit in the early part of the race, but he's now starting to come good. Grosjean having another look up the inside of the Rindt curve, but that's not going to work. It worked for Vergne on Hulkenberg earlier, but he was a lot more alongside than Grosjean was. Now coming up the inside into turn 1, Grosjean trying out braking. Button, he's got him. That's 4th position for the Franco-Swiss driver. So what can he do about Sergio Perez? But what can he do about Button coming flying back up the inside of him? But not quite. Now Grosjean can try and concentrate. And Sergio Perez, he's due into the pits this lap for his 2nd pit stop. So the 2nd out of 3 pit stops has now begun. Those on a 3-stop strategy. Let's see where this puts him. It'll be interesting to see what he can do on new tyres and a fresh slug of fuel. Looks like 21 laps, so a fairly short middle stint. Well, 3rd stint actually for Perez is on the agenda, so that looks like it might take him to about late 40s. Let's see what it does. Jaime Alguersuari comes into the pits in the 2nd Mitchell. Haven't seen many retirements this race, as Perez has rejoined behind Hamilton, who has now moved up to 9th position, 2-stopping Hamilton. So Perez needs to get past the Brit pretty quickly if he's going to make his 3-stop strategy work. Is he going to try into the Gers curve? He is going to try. Hamilton gives him space, and Hamilton remains ahead. Desperately needs some points on the board, do the FJRs, as Vettel comes into the pits for his 2nd stop. Again, not a lot of fuel going into the shake and bake. And a long stop as well, 8.8 seconds. It's going to be tricky for him to score points. He might come good later in the race. Let's see what happens. There's a GRM exiting the pits. Now Vern coming into the pits for his second stop. He was only 2.2 seconds ahead of Raikkonen, so he didn't make the most out of his second stint. So it's looking good for the Gojira driver, for Kimi Raikkonen, who needs to kickstart his championship campaign. He had that second position in Canada, quite doggedly, in fact. It was a good stop for Vern, 5.8 seconds. But on all the tyres, Raikkonen just about held on to second position from Fernando Alonso. And at the moment, Raikkonen sits third in the championship, 9 points behind that man, Romain Grosjean, who... And he's blown up! Romain Grosjean is retired from the race! Quite clearly an engine failure. Just saw that he was 2.5 seconds ahead of Button, but Button looked a bit closer than that, and that is why Romain Grosjean out of the race. And that's his fourth retirement as well. So the Tornado's not reliable. Well, not reliable in Grosjean's case. And it's on fire, black smoke. Freins has made a mistake at the Lauda curve under yellow flags. I think the stewards will look at that with a dim view. We now have a look at Hulkenberg and Vern. This is the battle for third position. 2 stopping Hulkenberg versus 3 stopping Vern. All of this has moved Button up to second position, and he's got a 4 second buffer over this battle for third, which has gone the way of Vern. But Button himself is 15 seconds behind Raikkonen. And we have a look at Perez versus Alonso for 5th position. Late on the brakes is Perez, and that was a good move. That's 5th position for the Mexican. Race winner from Canada. And Perez, another one on the 3 stops. And now here's a battle for seconds between Button, 2 stops, and Vern, 3 stops. Vern caught that up pretty quickly. Virtually second a lap. So now, this is his 3-stop strategy coming good. As he gets up the inside into the Rindt curve, he's got him. Second position for Vern. Now, what can he do about Raikkonen on his newer tyres? The gap at the moment, as they cross the line, is 15.8 seconds. Now, what can he do? He's got a couple of laps before he's due in the pits. So he needs to get the hammer down if he's going to challenge Raikkonen for the win. Or hope for some unreliability for the Gojira. Hulkenberg sits in a fairly solid 4th position at the moment. If anything happens to the top 3, he'll get a podium. And that would be his 2nd of the season. At the moment he sits 4th. Kubica challenging Rosberg for 7th, so Kubica has recovered his mechanical issue, as has this one, Fernando Alonso, as he comes into the pits for his 2nd pit stop. First one a little bit unscheduled, this one has now become scheduled, as he pulls into his pit box, stops on his marks, as the crew get to work, fit 4 new tyres, and put some fuel on. That's fuel to go to the end of the race. 6.4 seconds, a good stop, as he rejoins behind Al-Jaswari in the Mitchell, rounding the pit exit. Got to be careful you don't take that too quickly, otherwise you'll be whacking the barrier. So it's between Al-Jaswari and one of the Horizons. I suspect it's Bird, because he was running a fair bit ahead of Sutter. Oh, there's a collision. There's a shake and bake and an FJR that's collided with each other at the Gersa curve. It's Vettel versus Hamilton. Now this happened between a shake and bake and an FJR, and there's a nudge, and there's a Pedersen getting himself involved as well. Nothing the Pedersen could do about it. And synchronised spinning and synchronised beaching. And both are plummeting. And Gutierrez has crashed as well. So it's a puncture for him, the Mexican. So FJR's race has taken a real sour turn. That'd have been interesting having Courtney alongside me in the commentary box. Anyway, what's that done for the order? It's moved Al-Jaswari up to the final points position, but now Fernando Alonso, having made his final stop, is now back on the move. Jenson Button is into the pits from 3rd position, as is Hulkenberg from 4th position. So now the final stops are happening, and here's Jean-Eric Vergne's final stop. Going to be a long final stint, 6.2 seconds. I don't think he will do anything about Kimi Raikkonen in the lead, and Raikkonen was a long way in the lead. Vergne did close up a few seconds, but still more than 10 seconds. I don't think he'll challenge for the win, as he rejoins comfortably in 3rd position behind Perez, who might have a final stop to make. I have to check that. That's Alonso making his way. It's Button getting his way past Kubica, as Raikkonen is due in the pits this lap. Perez has in fact made his final pit stop, so Vergne, now in 2nd position, will probably remain there once Raikkonen makes his final pit stop, which he's doing right this second. Daniel Ricciardo also into the pits. There's Kobayashi exiting the pits for the Pedersen. He was the Pedersen that inadvertently got himself involved in the battle between Hamilton and Vettel, with that rather comical ending between the trio of them. Maldonado comes into the pits as Raikkonen exits the pits, taking that position from Daniel Ricciardo to lap him, and Raikkonen is still in the lead, comfortably. And on newer tyres it should be fairly straightforward till the end, so let's hope for his sake that he doesn't have any reliability problems. And reliability problems have just happened for his teammate. That's an engine failure for Perez. He was running in 5th position when that happened. Still had a podium possible on his cards, but now his engine has gone up in smoke. So that moves Alonso up to 5th position, Kubica up to 6th, Rosberg up to 7th, Al-Jaswari 8th, and then this battle for 9th position between Bottas and Vettel. So it's been a good race for Bottas to get himself up to 9th. But now he's under pressure from Vettel, who's had a bit of a scrappy race, it has to be said. And Hamilton did rejoin as well. He's sitting behind this battle. Now Raikkonen's coming up to lap this lot, and Bottas needs to get himself out of the way. He's not doing that. He is doing it now. Now it's Vettel's turn to do that getting out of the way act, because he's being lapped by the race leader. Bet he wasn't expecting that since his couple of wins in China and in the Nürburgring. He's in 9th position. Now he's challenging Al-Jaswari for 8th position. Al-Jaswari taking the wrong side as Vettel is up the inside and barges the Spaniard out of the way to take 8th position. So a crucial move there for Vettel if he's going to try and maintain his championship challenge. It's only 1 point, but 1 point may well have a significant impact. Meanwhile, Kubica and Rosberg, 6th and 7th. They seem a long way up the road from Vettel, so it looks like Vettel will have to settle for that 1 point. Kubica crosses the line, looking very lonely in 6th position. Still a good performance from the pole, starting 2nd on the grid, having good pace before his reliability issue affected his strategy, having to make 3 stops as a result. And he sits in 6th position behind Alonso, Hulkenberg, Button, Vergne, and this one, Kimi Raikkonen, as he goes down the downhill back straight, going into the Gersa curve. That's the 4th corner. Now he's rounding the Lauda curve, and he's just got 2 more corners to go, approaching one of them, which is the Rindt curve. And now the final one, the undulating final corner, as Kimi Raikkonen comes across the line to take Gojira's 3rd win of the season and his 2nd of the season. Good race for him. Taking 2nd was Jean-Eric Vergne, Third position in the end was Jenson Button, another good result for Exolite. Hulkenberg 4th, Alonso 5th, Kubica 6th, Rosberg 7th, and Vettel completing the point scorers in 8th position. And what that does to the World Championship, well, Kimi Raikkonen now takes the lead of the championship, having taken the full 12, Grosjean taking the full 0, and Vettel taking the measly 1. Raikkonen now holds a 3-point lead over Grosjean, with Vettel just a further 2 points behind. And in the Constructors' Championship, Gojira take a bit of a chunk out of Tornado, but still fundamentally 4 points behind. Now they're on 3 wins each. And that was the first half of the championship complete. We look forward to the second half of the championship, and what looks to be a very, very interesting championship battle. Next round will be the British Grand Prix, so we'll see you then.